Good morning, guys, and welcome to Friday's session live with AP Foundation, DBA Projects and Mixed Foundations. Today we are covering the topic mental health. Thank you for all joining us. We're a little bit further away from you today. We're going to be covering a serious topic and all working together just to work through different parts of mental health, really, and getting different aspects and how we can tackle it differently together, really. Today we've got DBA Foundation Daniel with us.
Hello there, you alright?
And we're going to just be covering all the subjects. So first of all, I wanted to get Daniel's opinion with working with young people with mental health and how you think it begins and where we go from there with the young people.
Yeah, so mental health, obviously, within our organisations, between AP Foundation, Mixed Foundation and DBA Project, we're out there working with young teenagers up to young men who are adults, sort of thing. And for us, it's something that we see every single day. It's a continual basis of mental health with our young kids, the traumas that they're going through with the knife crime and everything like that. A lot of that is causing a hell of a lot of mental health for our young people. And one of the issues that we're also seeing is the young people when they're going into custody and coming out of custody, and some of the issues that they're forming with that. And one of the issues that we've noticed is, I think it is that word trauma, which is causing so much mental health. And that trauma and the mental health can be coming from domestic violence, parents doing drugs, alcoholism, deprivation in where they're living and various things like that. And it's a massive drama for our youth of today. And it's something that we've noticed, especially with the pandemic, that the waiting list for a lot of these people is just ridiculous. In South London, I remember seeing it on the news a couple of weeks ago, it's a 4-year wait. A 4-year wait for our young kids to get help and support that they require. How does that work? What is the benefits of continuing that long path for a young person? So one of the things that we've tried to be doing within our organisations is trying to get to the root of the problem and trying to get to the problems directly ourselves and not having to wait for the statutory services. So I know, when Mixed Foundations come on, when Simon comes on in a bit, he'll be able to talk about what he's been doing with his homes in terms of employing specific people that we now have on board within our teams that can come and do this systematic work for the young people. Because otherwise, we're going to have a generation of kids, just like the knife crime, that are going to be in jail for murder or dead in a graveyard. We're going to have a generation of kids that are going to be really going through extreme mental health, but getting no support.
I also think as well, a lot of young people that are arrested and they're sent through the system and they're charged and released and whatever, no one actually has the time to actually see what is wrong or what caused that, and that begins with mental health really as well. But in our system, we don't have time to take care of them in that way. We just charge them and we move them on. So there's no one there to sort of find that root of the problem to help them along the way. They just end up getting stuck in the system, and by the time you're even diagnosed or helped, you're in your later years.
Yeah.
And I think the damage is already done by then.
Yeah.
We need to be getting in there really early, say a first offence or even before that first offence, so that we can deal with the issue, so that in 10 years' time, like you said, we're not dealing with loads of other kids with the same problem.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is professionals need to start realising, and I think we say this on many occasions during our live sessions, these youngsters, they're the future of our society, they're the future of us today. So professionals need to start understanding, instead of just saying, oh no, we can't work with them, every single young person can be worked with. So I'll give you an example. I remember working with a young girl about 7 years ago. Now, she was severely self-harmed. As everybody can see, I'm a black guy. She was a white lady. She was as dark as me for her self-harm on her arms. Okay, and I worked in the Priory with her, and every single professional that I worked with kept saying to me, she's not going to get any GCSEs. She's not going to do anything with her life. She needs to just be in here. She needs the help and the support. It's probably going to be a 5-year process. I didn't agree with any of them. I was sort of fighting against the system. So I wanted to make a point to them. And by doing that, we got all of her GCSEs. She was one of the top girls in the whole of her year group. She didn't go to school. So by doing that, we empowered her. And now she goes around the world talking about her mental health. She's been on This Morning. She's been on Good Morning Britain. She's been over in America. She's been to Germany. But what it's about actually giving the opportunity for our young people to be able to work with their mental health and try creating that change.
Plus, one system doesn't work for everybody.
No.
Like you said, that girl was given a programme,
yes,
and you totally disagreed with it because one programme doesn't fit all.
Yeah,
And everyone needs to be a programme custom to them, but we don't have enough budget or enough time or enough. Everyone's just following this old school way, and it doesn't work for everybody, unfortunately.
100%.
Everyone needs something tailored for them, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
We tailor it completely different.
Yeah.
We're going to bring in Simon now.
Yes.
And we're going to get Simon's point of view. Just bear with me a minute, guys. Okay, so I'm just going to bring you in. Should I bring Andy in as well?
Yeah, bring them both. Then he can go.
Try and bring Andy and Simon in today. We're winging it a little bit here, guys. You can see we've changed it up a bit this morning.
We're all actually together today.
Hi, son. Oh, it looks lovely where you are.
Good afternoon. How you doing? Yeah, it's nice out here in the sun.
How you doing?
You got
okay?
the best spot. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
We want to get your personal opinion on, you know, what you've seen yourself through the history of mental health, working with people.
Okay. Well, before I start, I'd just like to say it's good that we're all together today. We're all around. So we've got AP Foundation, we've got DBA Project and Mixed Foundations. We're all within the same environment, so it's good. It's good. Mental health, where do we start? Mental health is massive. It can be as little as having a down day to full-blown diagnosed schizophrenia, paranoia, all those kind of things, manic depressants. So where do we start with mental health? We'll start with, like I say, the kids that we work with. And I want to talk about our sister company today, Mixed Foundations Holistic Homes. We've got 3 homes in the Nottingham area, and every child that comes in, part of the care system, they're usually part of youth offending, and they're all coming with some type of mental health. And if you look at what they've been through, they've probably got detachment disorders and things like that because of the trauma and the rejection that they've suffered being in the care system. So these things get overlooked, and people just look at the behaviour and think, "Oh, why are they behaving in this kind of way?" They're not looking at the mental health. So what it is for us, we like to do therapeutic work with them. So instead of just doing the mentoring and the independent living schools, because we take them from 16 to 18, so we have to teach them how to prepare a meal, wash clothes, change a light bulb, all the kind of things what they're going to have to do when they get their own tenancy. A lot of them are smoking weed as well, so that doesn't help on top, self-medicating with the strong skunk that they smoke today. So it's a big subject. So what we believe is getting the right people in to support them. And as Dan said earlier, the route for mental health statutory organisation is CAMHS. And like Dan says, there's years and years of waiting list for CAMHS. So we have to look at getting our own workers in who the kids will deal with, because when they won't go to CAMHS, there's too much stigma. I'm not going to CAMHS. I'm not mad. You know what I mean? I'm not talking to some middle class person about what I've got going on in my head. So we're fortunate enough to have somebody with us who's worked at CAMHS, so we can offer the same services, but she's very approachable, and the kids will be able to relate to her. A lot of my staff, including myself, have got therapeutic qualifications. We've got counsellors, I've got CBT qualification. So it's about getting the right people to support these kids while they're going through mental health. Someone who's going to listen, someone who's not going to give stigma, someone who's going to be non-judgmental. From when they've got that and they've got a safe space to talk, then we can start trying to deal with the mental health, whether it's low level or whether it's high level. If it's high level, we have to signpost. But at least we can start working on the low-level stuff. And of course, because of what's been going on just lately, I think everybody's suffered with a bit of mental health. You might wake up one morning, see the news or whatever, and think, "Oh, I don't fancy it today." So if we're doing that as professional adults, what these children have been through, all that trauma going through themselves.
I think you've made a great point in saying with the young people as well, as an adult, you're more open to talk to people, less judgmental of the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
When you're young and you're about to open up about your trauma, your back is up, your guard is up. So straight away, you're on the defence. So if you don't connect with that young person, you're not going to be able to build that relationship or bond where that young person can tell you actually what is going on. And that's where I think projects like us really come in handy, because sometimes professionals can be too professional for young people, I think.
I agree. And just going on something you said, Simon, sorry, just to interject again, you said about like, the skunk and everything like that. That's a major problem for our youngsters today, isn't it? Because the type of skunk that they're smoking, compared to years, even going 15 years ago, the amount of chemicals and the levels of everything.
Sprays on it and rubbish.
Is that also causing a massive issue as well, brother?
Yeah, obviously the weed that, I used to smoke weed years ago when I was younger. Yeah. But the weed I was smoking was brown weed, and there was no problem. But what they're doing now, what they're spraying it with, and you got to remember, when they're doing cannabis farms and that, they're wearing masks while they're spraying it. You know, there's some potent stuff going into it. and then someone's inhaling that. So even when I smell it now, passive smoking, walking past somebody, it doesn't make me feel good. So actually ingesting that, I couldn't even imagine. I'd be in bits. I'd be on the floor.
I don't think once you're smoking it either, you know how powerful it is.
No.
They just they get this kind of high of this relaxation, but without even realising all these side effects like paranoia and the laziness. I mean, it just makes you lazy in general, doesn't it? So even if you're not smoking it through the day, you literally don't really want to be doing anything. And I find that's a massive problem as well, because it just gives you that sort of attitude, doesn't it? Yeah.
Massive. And I think what you just said as well, Simon, with the chemicals, they're having to wear masks. There's a reason why they're wearing masks.
Yeah.
When they're doing all of it.
Yeah, what I've noticed is as well, obviously a weed smoker back in the day just blazed weed, that's it. Now they're actually like fiends. They're like people on crack cocaine. You know, if they haven't got the weed, they go crazy, they're climbing the walls, they're selling things to get weed. So what is in this weed that they're smoking today? You know, it's serious. It really is. So it's not going to help with the mental health. A lot of the kids, you know, they stay in the rooms and they're smoking that much. The mental health is kicking in. They'll make up scenarios like, oh, I was out on the road and 2 men rushed me, when they've not even left the room, you know. So it's really affecting them. So our job is to get them out of isolation. If they're feeling paranoid around the ends where they live or where they're placed, then we'll get them out and take them out into the country. You know, live in Nottingham, there's a bit more fields than that. It's not built up like London. So we can get them out and just try and take them for walks and things like that. Walks by water, walks where there's nobody else who's going to be a threat to them, and just try and work on what's going off. So that's what we need to do.
Can I just ask, when you take them out of London and into your environment, do you find that has a much more positive impact, like a better result over the history of time?
Yeah, it gives them a chance to explore something else, because we all know a lot of kids in London have never left their ends, have never left their boroughs, never mind left London in a hole. And one kid that came up to Nottingham, I took him to a placement, and it was like sort of countryside. So we were driving past fields and that. And then he's looking at bales of hay in the fields. And he's going, oh, it's like you know all about farming. He's going, oh, a combine harvester costs £500,000. So basically, he knew all about agriculture. And this is Pal, who we used to work with, Dan. He knew all about agriculture. And I'm thinking, this is a road kid. And he's telling me, he says, are you interested in this or something? Because, yeah, I've always been interested in it, but I could never actually talk to my brethren about it. So for him coming to Nottingham, seeing the countryside and being with someone he felt safe with, and we got him into college doing things like that. And he didn't completely go down that road. He did the courses. Now he's working and earning good money a day doing construction, but just giving him that space to be able to talk about what's really going on. So that means that kid, even when he's on the roads doing all what he's doing, he's thinking about agriculture. He's thinking about something different. Yeah. But it's about giving him that platform to get it out. These kids don't have a platform. They don't have nobody to talk to, you know? So do
you find that over the lockdown, you've seen yourself, the mental health rate obviously accelerate, and I mean, now we're coming out of lockdown, there's going to be a whole heap of people that need support.
Mental health's been massive.
There's enough budget there to help enough people.
Yeah, it's been massive during lockdown, especially kids that are placed in care away from home. Yeah. So they're locked down, in quarantine, they can't go to see the mom, they can't go to see the friends. So a lot of kids were going missing during that. When they go missing, they end up get caught up in all the other things like county lines. They're putting themselves at risk with the COVID and everything. So it's been really bad. They're just stuck in the rooms with the lockdown, and it's whatever's going on for them, it's amplified 100 times worse since COVID. So
I think as well, no one sort of obviously knew lockdown was coming, so there was no plan in place, and the whole world stopped. But the most people that needed our support, we couldn't support them because none of us could do nothing.
Well, to be fair, we've got some fantastic mentors between Mixed Foundations, DBA Project and AP Foundation. We've got some fantastic mentors who have got big hearts and they want to serve the community. So even when we said, listen, you don't have to go out and do this work now, you can do it remotely, they still went out and risked their lives to work with these young people in the streets, which is great. And all the local authorities we work with thanked us for supporting their kids during lockdown, because we carried on basically.
We went that extra mile.
Obviously we had COVID rules and it was a bit of social distancing and that, we weren't taking them out in cars and stuff, but we did carry on supporting them. And I believe if we'd not supported certain people, they'd either be in jail now or dead. And I'm not just bigging that up. That's actual fact.
That is a lovely thing that you went that extra mile, but unfortunately, not a lot of other people did.
No.
So I feel like, you know, you've done so much already, but there's still so much we've got to do, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. There's loads that we've still got to do, and I think the stuff that we just, you know, mental health for me is such a broad thing. Before, as we were all talking about before we came on live today, it's such a broad thing because people can't sit there and say to me that mental health isn't part of the knife crime situation that's going on right now, because that's mental health.
Mental health is the core of it all, isn't it, really?
To be able to go and stick a knife into somebody else and twist that around and walk away from them and feel okay and have somebody else's blood. Do you remember we were talking about this yesterday, Si? About having somebody else's blood actually on your hands and you're walking away. That's mental health.
Yeah.
And also that ripple effect of everyone else's mental health when you commit that crime, like, you know, your mum, your dad, your family. You know, if you've got to go to court, go to prison, that mental health then ripples all the way through because it affects everybody.
100%.
Of course it does. And that mental health, what Dan's talking about, putting a knife in. So I'm not advocating harming anybody in any way, but it would be easier to shoot somebody than stick a knife in them, because you're actually...
We were having this conversation yesterday.
Up close and personal, actually going into people's organs. So if you're desensitized enough, as young people are these days, they'll just do it and don't think nothing. That's got to come back and get you one day. One day when you're older or when you're in prison doing the years that you're doing, that has got to come back and affect you psychologically. It has to affect your mental health, no matter how desensitized you are at the time of actually committing that crime. So it is. And
that desensitization normally starts off at a lot more of an early period in life. And this is what we always say, we need to get in there so much earlier. Because this is where you make that change. Going into someone's life when they're 30 or 40 years of age and undoing all them layers of all that damage is going to be a lot harder to fix, isn't it, in the long run? And we're just covering general in mental health. You've got to think of services like prisons and places like that. They've also really suffered. And I don't feel like the support was 100% there before. So now I feel like it's even worse than it was before. They've also really suffered.
Of course, and I know we've got Andy here, the AP Foundation gaffer. He's here now, and he's going to talk about the prison side and mental health.
I'm going to bring Andy on, guys, so we can get another side of it. Just apologise that me and Dan keep getting up, but the screen goes dark. So we want to see you. Dan's going to have a sit back in a minute.
Okay, let's running down on yours.
Down.
You're too
close together, guys.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's go on. Okay. I'll exit this one.
Yeah,
come on. Let's run and turn around.
Sorry about this, guys. The technology never runs that smooth.
Hey, how's that?
That's perfect.
How's that for effective today?
So, Andy, I wanted to get your opinion of, obviously, when you left prison, how your mental health was affected and how you were supported.
Okay, just a second, Vic. Simon's increasing the volume on his phone, which I'm coming from now. Right, go for it.
So I want to get your opinion on how it affected your mental health coming out of prison and the support that you received and how that affected you, basically, after prison life.
Well, I think if we start with prison life, I think, and mental health is one of the biggest things, I think, to start with, Vicky, because when I was in prison, for a long part of my sentence, I became a listener. And Samaritans run a really good course. Basically, people, you know, if they want to volunteer to help, they can train to become a listener. And what it entails is basically, you know, you're given a T-shirt, you're given the approval, basically, that you can qualified once you, you know, go through the course to listen to people, you know. And in prison, you've got a lot of people who have got mental health issues. And sad to say, a lot of people have got that and it's undiagnosed, and they're put into a system with very little help or support for them. And being a listener, you know, I came across a lot of people, you know, they'd press their bell when they need someone to talk to. And we had to just listen, you know. You can't actually give advice because you're not allowed to do that, but you have to just kind of, you know, have empathy, but you can't have sympathy, you know, but you listen. And I came across a lot of people, you know, and as I said, some of the things what they used, you know, to express themselves was very, you know, it was almost scary, you know. I'd seen guys who had, you know, took sort of screws and actually put them into their kneecaps, you know, and would you know, turn them to release pressure or self-harming, you know. Even guys who took pens, the actual infill of a pen, with a big pen, and actually inserted it underneath their skin, literally ran all the way up into their veins, you know. And it was, to see some of this stuff, it was really, you know, kind of, it was shocking. But when you got deeper, you had to realise what caused it. And a lot of it was, there were people had problems they were unable to talk to people about, because again, they were probably looked at as attention seeking or something like this, you know. But they were sometimes starts with, it could be the slightest little thing. It can start from family, maybe, you know, a parent leaving, and it can affect a child. The child doesn't know how to express themselves, and, you know, that sets a path. It's not properly addressed, and suddenly they find themselves into, you know, getting into silly trouble. Then that becomes a more attention thing, what they're doing that for. Then they end up in a system where there is no support, there is no real care, especially if they've been diagnosed with mental health issues, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And every day, virtually, I used to come across it. You know, there are people I, you know, come across in prison, and I thought, you know, you need help. You shouldn't be in a prison. Do you know what I mean? And generally, some of the crimes are quite, you know, have been quite horrific. But
you saw that quite a lot, the mixture between people that should be in a mental hospital and they were in a prison.
Yeah, you know, like, you know, I've spoken to a guy, one particular guy, I remember him and a neighbour had a dispute, and he took the neighbour and chopped down his head off, had it in his freezer for sort of 6 weeks, you know. And speaking to the guy, I could, you know, I knew the guy had mental health issues, and yet he was doing a massive sentence. He'd been in like 30 odd years. But I could see, had, you know, he been given the proper, you know, treatment, maybe not from the street. And I do know this for a fact. Other cases, I had another guy on my wing, and he killed his girlfriend in the most horrendous way. But he said, you know, leading up to this, he went and he said, he went to his doctor, he phoned his doctor, he contacted him. So he said, I'm having mad thoughts, you know, I'm not right, please, I need medication. And they basically thought he was trying it just to get medication, but he was in desperate need of medication to deal with his mental health issues, because he was hallucinating and all these kind of thoughts were going through his head, until he actually then came out and done something like this. And again, because they believed he was in his sound mind, which I know he wasn't in his sound mind, you know, because obviously you're living with people on a wing, you get to know what's behind it. Obviously, he got a life sentence for that. But there are lots of cases, and I think to myself, we have to look up at it. And the trauma that's caused on people as well is a big thing. And again, with these young guys, we talk about postcode gangs, we talk about this stuff all the time. We talk about, you know, county lines. And I'm saying, if you take up a young individual and you put them through some sort of shock, and you put them through this kind of immense stress and pressure as well, pressure can, you know, lead to mental health issues. If you've constantly got things going on around you which are putting you under pressure, maybe you're not, you know, showing that pressure because you're trying to, you know, put on this bravado or, you know, sort of save face, but it's all going in. And the pressure that it's actually causing you will, after a period of time, lead to mental health issues, you know, because it wears you down.
If you're not releasing
if you're not releasing it, you know, you have to have someone to talk to. So therapy is a very, very important process, and having a trained person, a counsellor who can help you, because like Spencer Baldry, you know, one of our advisory board members, I don't know if you saw it, but we'll repost it today, and he, you know, gives us some hints on, you know, conflict resolution, but he deals with anger management. You know, this is another thing. If we don't know how to treat anger or you know, or how to treat our emotions, they become the wrong emotions, and they can become not only bad for us, but it can become very, very toxic for our inner selves, and, you know, affect people, you know, because how they're put out there, you know. So I think the most important thing we need to do, and I think it's really important, is that people have to be very mindful and conscious. And what are the signs? What are the signs where someone perhaps maybe, you know, isn't themselves, or not thinking? Well, a lot of young people, as Dan and as Simon have rightfully said, are taking, you know, smoking drugs, skunk, you know, which again is a very, 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 very potent, you know, form of cannabis. As I said, it's not natural, you know, and even with natural cannabis, a lot of people I do know, you know, have smoking too much, and it has affected them. It had effects on them, but, you know, particularly skunk. It's, you know, it's a common factor. A lot of these kids now are taking that, and they're literally, you know, that you see their behaviour just changing, and it's just changing rapidly, and it's a spiral which goes down, you know, and it gets to the stage where this leads to something else, you know. And I know of cases, again, getting back to prison, where there are guys I know who've just, you know, flipped, and they've, you know, turned psychotic because it's the yearning for the weed. It's like an addiction, do you know what I mean? And what it then does is it creates this whole adrenaline buzz to them. Then they go out and they do something mad, you know. So again,
you know what I find I hear a lot as well about attention seeking. a lot of times I've worked with people and professionals tell me they're attention seeking, and I think a lot of people slip through the net for that word. But also, even if you are attention seeking, I still believe that's a mental issue on its own. And instead of dismissing someone because they're attention seeking, you need to find why they're craving that and what they missed out in life to need to attention seek, correct?
100%.
100%, Vicky, what you just said, because when people are doing things, they're doing them because they're crying out, okay? And if we don't take heed to that, they're crying out for something, right? And it's the way they're trying to express it. But by ignoring it and labelling it, as you said, as attention seeking or whatever, you're not addressing the issue for that person. And that person's going to fall deeper and deeper and deeper into a state perhaps of depression, into a state of paranoia, you know, and all the other affiliated things that will go with that, you know. So it's really, really important to try to not dismiss or be incredibly judgmental, you know, with people as well, you know. And that's another big thing as well. You know, you have to be very open-minded with people, understand, because anyone could be in that situation. Anyone can lose their mind, okay? And I've got very, very good friends, you know, who, you know, have been, you know, committed to mental hospitals, you know. And I mean, these are very, very smart people, but things happen to them. It gets far too much for them, you know, and it results in, you know, this downward spiral. You know, but all it would have taken, you know, I feel really bad myself because I thought, well, wow, I've known this person before, that happened to them. And maybe if it took more time to talk them through and navigate them through certain things, that might have been all it helped. But you've allowed them to, you know, be their own device, their own mechanism. And what's happened is they haven't been able to control it or manage it properly. And it's led to greater things. But I think pressure and stress is a big one. People have a lot of commitments to things. It could be family life, you know, it could be you're threatened by someone, you feel intimidated. It could be, you know, just, as I said, pressure of money, not having money, you know, pressure not to feed your kids. These things happen all the time, you know. So we have to be very mindful of that and how we can deal with it.
You know what also worries me as well, though? Like you said, you've seen people over the years and it's a process and then they end up sectioned or whatever.
Yeah.
I worry that by the time someone's sectioned, they're in such a state, they're just sort of drugged up and made to calm down, and I feel like that's too far gone then, because now you're just drugging them up and making them into a drip almost. So you're not going to be able to start unpeeling the layers almost. You're too far in, aren't you?
Yeah, and you know, again, I see again, you know, the medication and stuff that's given. Some of it's, you know, it's literally, we used to call it liquid cosh, you know. And this used to happen in prisons, you know, back in the 70s and the 80s, where prisoners would become a little bit too much. What the officers used to do legally was liquid cosh them, they'd inject them. And once they started to put it in, then it was an easy way to pacify the prisoner, you know, so they would be basically, you know, incapacitated, so they wouldn't be a problem to the system. And, you know, what's happening now, I'm finding is not in prisons, but actually out in the system. You know, doctors are really quick to prescribe very, very overpowerful drugs and medication for people, you know, without giving them the time. And I mean, herbal medicine, you know, and there are lots of things as well. Even sleep deprivation can lead to mental health. If you're not sleeping properly, you know, it's going to affect your whole balance of life. And, you know, for example, CBD oils have become very, very useful now. There are, you know, certain given ones which are legalised and obviously are prescription based and stuff, you know, do naturally help people sleep. And there are natural herbs, there are natural, you know, medicine that
I also believe that's why weed's such a massive thing now as well, because a lot of people don't want to go and self-medicate at a doctor, so then they use that. But then we talk about how bad weed is, but then how bad's the medication they're pumping with in the past?
I think the problem is using it in the wrong capacity. I think anyone, if you're taking anything, and this is a natural herb sort of coming, you know, because there are lots of natural herbs we have, you know, as I said, if you go to China medicine store, places like that, you can get some really, really good medications basically that can help you sleep, help you relax. And it's about relaxation. It's about being able to feel comfortable in your own skin. It's about being able to be settled. That's an imbalance. I think, and mental health is, you know, it is a big trigger because people are very stressed, people are very tense, and they're very, very hyper. And it's what it creates. It leads from one thing to the other. It tends to excel, you know.
If you can't sleep though, and you go to a doctor and you tell that doctor you can't sleep, that doctor instantly wants to issue you with a sleeping tablet so you can sleep. But how do you sleep the next night again without the sleeping tablet?
Well, that's right. You put on tablets, aren't you? And that's what happens. Then it leads in itself, you become dependent on medication. Then the medication doesn't become strong enough, so you lift it to higher forms of medication, and suddenly, you know, it's like a slide.
And so, in a way, it's all about trying to work with mind, body, and soul, isn't it?
I think it is. I think, you know, the greatest way, you know, to deal with anyone, I think, and I'm not a doctor by far, do you know what I mean? I'm not going to be an expert on mental health, but I'm a pretty good, you know, a pretty good measure of people and a pretty good, you know, person in terms of life experience. I've, you know, been on this earth for 54 years and, you know, I've
seen a lot
of things. I've seen a hell of a lot, yeah. And that encounters meeting people from every colour, creed, you know, everything you could possibly imagine, all kinds of conditions. And, you know, I try to observe, I try to listen, I try to look and maybe take on board what some of those people are actually experiencing, because what we don't realise is it could happen to any of us. You know, none of us are beyond any of these elements. You know, people with dementia or something, and that's, you know, it's losing your mind. You know, and, you know, you get to a certain age and that goes. If you take time and talk to someone who you think's, you know, going down that road of Alzheimer's, and you start to, you know, give them, you know, conversations, start bringing things with them, you know, again, that can help, you know.
I'm really sorry if you can see me smiling, but Daniel...
I can see you smiling. I don't know what you're smiling for, though.
Stop making noises in my ear. I'm going to take him for lunch in a minute.
Sorry.
I can pack lunch before we started.
I can see you guys smiling. I don't know what's going on behind you. Sorry?
She's neglecting you. You're so grounded. I'm making it worse.
Great.
I think if anyone here can say they don't suffer with mental health, then that is just, you know, that's not true, because we all suffer.
We've all got a bit of it inside of us, haven't we?
All of us.
It's how we cope.
We are born with it, you know.
Yeah, and it's our coping mechanisms, you know, how we cope with it. Some people, I would say stronger, but not necessarily stronger than others or weaker than others. It's just how we deal with certain issues. You know, we deal with them differently. And some people,
your brain is a powerful muscle, and sometimes when stuff like this happens to you, you don't even understand what's happening, especially if you've always been in control, a very happy-go-lucky person. All of a sudden, you feel lost. Some people don't know how to get help because they don't even know what's wrong.
Yes.
And that's where talking comes into it.
I think that's the real key thing.
I do agree.
And what you were talking about earlier on, and when you were in prison, I think it's when you say you're a listener and everything like that, being able to talk to people, I think that's a really key element to mental health, is being able to communicate and for somebody to actually listen to somebody.
You know, they listen. You know, I you know, look at myself as a proud man, but I'm not too proud to say, you know, if I'd never probably done listening courses and stuff like that, when I came out of prison, I could have seriously had these issues. You know, I came out, both my parents died, you know, in a very, very short space of time of that happening. You know, my relationship with my, you know, long-term, you know, fiance fell apart. And some people can't do those things, you know, and to be honest, I had to really kind of draw on in myself to sort of say to myself, look, you know, I've got to really just manage this situation, you know. But some people, perhaps those kind of things happening can lead to things like that, you know, people losing things, you know, people coming out of prison as well. It's a very, very common factor, you know.
Do you think as well, the generations, you know, years ago when my mum was a young child, life was completely different in a sense where kids should be seen, not heard.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, my mum wasn't allowed to talk about what, you know, had happened in her life, what was wrong with her, because you shut your mouth and you get on with it. This generation with our children, we're a lot more open, but I feel like we've still got a whole generation mixed up somewhere where we've not. They don't want to talk because they've always been dealing with it.
We don't deal with stuff, you know, grief, we don't deal with grief. Grief's a really big thing, you know, and grief can lead to depression, you know, and, you know, there's a bunch of stuff, honestly, you know, circumstances, and it can be from anything, you know, but you've got to be able to talk. Well, have one person at least you can talk to, you know, and if that person then isn't, you know, doesn't feel they can manage the situation, then, you know, think about seeing someone who's professionally trained, who can deal with that, you know, who can sort of, you know, guide you and coach you around it, because it's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, if you think you're suffering, or you think maybe your mind's sort of wandering in areas it shouldn't. Don't get me wrong, our minds wander. You know, you sit in a room, and anyone would be lying if the chairman said you've done a mad thought somewhere. You know, and it could be the most craziest thought in the world. But what happens is, you know, the thought comes and the thought goes. And that's your mind moves, but your legs and your arms don't move. You don't sit in a room, your legs run off somewhere and come back to you, or your arm runs off and comes back to you, or your eyes pop out your head and then, you know, come around in the room and put back in you. But your mind does, and we accept it as normal, but we don't address it. We don't address it with our minds taking us somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
Especially if we're not communicating with one another, I think you can make it worse in your own head.
Yeah.
Sometimes saying it out loud to someone else, that can help you understand it a bit more.
Agree.
Can't
Yeah, 100%. You know, and it's important, as I said. You know, you have to be able to. You've got to share that. You must be a great. You try to be a good communicator. You know.
I think that word you just used a minute ago, Anne. Don't be ashamed.
Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed.
There's nothing to be ashamed of.
You know, you can't be.
That's the biggest thing that we can really talk about today for everybody and anybody out there right now, young, old, male, female, whatever creed, colour you're coming from. Don't be ashamed to talk about mental health, because it's a reality. It's an everyday thing. We've all got a bit of it inside of us. And we as professionals, us as our organisations, we're 100% here to listen. Nobody's story is going to be too silly. Nobody's story is going to be too stupid. Your questions are never going to be too silly to ask.
Nothing we've not heard.
No.
And
nothing we've not been through.
Exactly. And so I think that word you said a minute ago is being ashamed. People need to stop about that and realise mental health is part of our society. And we've got to be here to support it.
And something that's like really close to my heart, and I don't want to be stereotypical, but I find that men do struggle a lot more, and there is so much more. I think women are so much more open to talk about their feelings. And some of the stories that I hear about the men are just so heartbreaking, because no one would have a clue what they was going through at the time. And after you think, why? Because a man comes across as being strong, the man of the house, the big macho man. It's the 21st century. We don't need to live like this anymore, you know? We all need to be talking to one another.
What you said, Vic, is ego, you know, and we have huge egos, especially men. And we kind of, you know, we want to think that we're always in control, but we can't always be in control. You know, we control some elements, but some of the moving parts are uncontrollable, and we have to accept that, you know. And how we deal with those moving parts is, as I said, it defines who we become as human beings. A young lady I spoke to not so long ago, she does an amazing Instagram blog, actually, and I watched one of her things really briefly yesterday, and she was talking about energy and ego, and I thought it was amazing. You know, she said one thing which was quite good. She said, you know, if someone engages her and they're saying, you know, they're right, you know, they could turn around and say, you know, 4 and 5 equals 10, right? Okay, we know it equals 9, and she knows it equals 9, but she knows that's an argument that person wants to have. So rather than getting involved in an argument and burning her energy, what she'll then say is, yeah, fine, agree with it, and nicely leave that situation. With the condition of getting involved, you know, putting too much pressure on yourself and leading into mental health is constantly having to be fighting and arguing with people. See what I mean? And if you're in an environment where you're constantly doing it every single day, that can't be good for your mental health, okay? That's going to have an effect on you, you know? So if you find yourself even in those situations, sometimes it's better to retreat, because you're not actually retreating and losing, you're actually gaining, because what you're doing is you're saving your dignity, you're saving your energy, and you're putting good vibes around you. You're not bringing negative into it, because when you start putting these thoughts into your head, they stay with you, and it puts a bitterness in you, how you then portray yourself.
I think that point of just saying sometimes can be a very dangerous line, because sometimes you have to protect yourself.
You have to.
And then you have to turn your back on that person, but that person is also in a really bad place.
Yeah.
So
you must also protect your own mental health. You know, that's very, very important.
It's really important.
And you've got to know where the line is, and this is where the professional and reaching out to people like
this is where professionals are trained to do this. Yeah, you know, to navigate you through those situations, because these people are, you know, they've gone to study and they've gone to understand all the elements which, you know, create this to happen, and they're able to sort of navigate you through it the best possible way. And again, you know, we can't give the greatest advice in the world. We can give the best advice to the best of our knowledge. You know, but yeah.
And so, let me just read out a comment here from AUP UK. Men do not openly reveal their emotions. Suppressed emotions equal ill mental health. Exactly what we're saying.
Yeah, it's true.
Completely what we're saying, 100%. You know, couldn't agree with that one more.
I think the only solution is to be talking, right?
Cool. I'm going to give you back to Simon now. So we're going to spin back round, guys, as we're sharing this. Got it. Here we go.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Good afternoon again. You're right. What I wanted to talk about as well, some great key points today. And as we said before we came on, it's a massive scope. So we're just scratching the surface. But also in communities, like especially in our communities, African, Caribbean communities, I think even Asian, it's stigma. Yeah. It's like you can't talk about mental health, as you said. People think that you've been possessed or something's taken over you. Do you know what I mean? So that's just suppressing it even more. So imagine you've got that stigma as well, when you might even be at the point of wanting to actually talk about it. Yeah. So it's about making it accessible and okay. You know, like it's okay to talk about mental health. Like even they put a few adverts on TV a few years ago. I don't know if you remember, where they kind of did it where someone was talking out loud what they were thinking, and then someone actually asked how somebody were, and he just says, "Yeah, to be honest with you, I've been struggling with mental health," and that was that broken. Then once they'd voiced it, so I think there needs to be more, you know, awareness around that. And I think as communities, we need to be encouraging our young people, not even young people, adults, everybody to talk about it, that it's okay. Like, you know, celebrities like Tyson Fury, I love the way that he talks about his mental health.
Brilliant.
You know,
he's the best at it right now, isn't he?
You know, big bad Tyson Fury, knock out any man. But he will openly talk about the depths of despair that he went to through mental health. I think things like that are amazing.
Here, right?
He's gone through a lot. Some of his stories, I think, you know, Simon, we both know. He was talking about his last moment before he decided that he needed to change. Yeah. He was going to drive himself into a wall, and then he thought about his children.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and if somebody like Tyson Fury can talk about their mental health, go and experience counselling, because I've had counselling.
I've had counselling.
Yeah, I've had counselling. Join the club.
There's no shame in that.
Just set a meeting up.
Yeah,
hands up.
There's no problem in saying that. You know, we're trained counsellors, and you have to go through a lot to be able to get to the moment where we want to be able to get to. So you have to go through. I have to go through my life, and I'll tell you now, there's times in it wasn't easy. I actually thought. I remember going to my counselling. I went there and I was like, okay, I've got to do this thing. But the reality, I found a lot about myself. I found a lot about my own childhood.
You think you're fine, and then you start unpeeling all these layers.
I was being the man. I was standing there being the man. Like, I don't need to do this. I'll do the hours. Don't really need to do it. I ended up doing about 10, 15 more hours than I needed to do for my course. Because the reality is, I needed to understand myself.
And you do, especially if you're working with other people. How can you get other people on that path and guide them through situations if you've not dealt with your own stuff, you know? So it's needed. And clinical supervision. I have clinical supervision myself. So when I'm taking on everything from people, I need to be able to offlay that and have my hour of peace to get it all out, you know, my space. So I give supervision to my staff, and I receive it myself from an outsourced clinical supervisor, which goes into counselling as well, because you talk about what's going on personally, what's going on professionally, certain high-level cases that we deal with that could get to you. So you need that support around you, even in the professional environment. I'll always be an advocate for saying that.
I don't think there can be enough people working on mental health right now, because like I said, everybody's different. So not one person is for one person. So the more different people out there from different aspects and different experiences in life, the more people we can affect positively and make that change, I believe.
Yeah, 100%. And now you say everybody's different. Let me put this to you. So as an adult, you're going to get counselling. You might want to talk about cultural things. You might want to talk about anything. So if you was white, you might want to get a white counsellor. You feel that you can talk about things. If you're black, you might want to. So you can actually choose. You can match your counsellor to suit your needs. When you're a child and you're getting sent to services like CAMS or whatever, you can't choose anybody. So you've got nothing in common. Right? So we want to provide that same match for match, like for like counsellor client sort of thing, because I think that's very important that you feel.
And if it was done properly in the first place, like you said, the younger people, we're going to have more of a better effect, aren't we? And a happier ending.
Different society.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course we are. Of course we are.
And this is why we do these lives. I mean, literally, even anyone watching now, you know, you might be finding yourself that, all right, you can't connect with a counsellor, or you can't connect through a sort of systems way. Well, then connect with us, because we're real people with real life experiences. We're all, you know, we all come from different parts of life, and we're here non-judgmental, and we're here to listen. And that's what we do. We want to provide tailor-made services for you, not just some set-out plan of this is what you do will make you better. It doesn't work like that. Everybody's different.
No. I'm talking to somebody now in Nottingham, and she actually works for CAMS, and she's from the community and she cares about the kids. So we're having conversations now about how can we make these services more accessible. So from her side, it's about selling her, and that she cares about them and she can deal with them in the way they can understand it, they can come to her. And it's about me from my side selling that. So it's about her selling us to the statutory service for the work that we can do. Maybe we train some of their staff, and it's about me selling CAMS through somebody from the community who's working there, who does care. So it's like we've got to broker this to get our kids into where they need to be. So if we're just the first point of call and we do some brief interventions, then we pass them on to the high level stuff, then that's what we need to be doing. So there needs to be a gap, a bridge between the gaps.
Yeah.
Totally agree, Si. Totally in agreement, and I know exactly who you're talking about. In trying to, the lady that obviously you're talking about that you brought into your organisation.
This is another lady there. So sorry, I forgot the other. So this is two people there.
I can't keep up with you.
All right, so is that new true
yesterday we were at one moment, now we're at somewhere else. I know exactly what you're trying to say in terms of the services that are out there for these young people right now. It's not doing enough.
No.
It's not, and it's clear. It's really evidential in terms of the amount of kids that you've been working with over the years. Si, same here. The amount of times I've been to CAMS. I've been to CAMS with a kid. You know, we've been there for like 12 weeks in a row. Don't know what we're doing there. If I'm really honest, they're having communication. It's not counselling. It's not a listening ear. The kid half of the time is playing on his phone and not actually paying attention. So what effect is that actually having for this young person? Yet it's all to do with that, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's no set structure. There's just a timetable to follow in a way. And
it's money that the government are giving to. There we go.
So I'm saying,
I guess it's ticking the boxes, isn't it, Si?
Yeah, it is. But I'm saying I've come across a couple of people now in CAMS who do want to make a difference.
Yeah.
So if we can get to those people and do something together, to I'll go in and train CAMS staff if you want training on how to deal with these young people. I'll go in and do that to do my bit for the community. But it's about finding people in these positions who have the same ethos as us. And I'm meeting a couple of people like that is what I'm saying. So that's a start. It's not massive, but it's a start, to make a difference.
I'm just reading this comment here. Half of the counsellors are not getting access to clients. There is a waiting list for children and counsellors are struggling to find clients. It does not make any sense. I have seen that, but I've seen that because they're private counsellors and they're trying to earn a living.
Yeah, and one of the issues is that schools and statutory services for young people
are just jam-packed.
No, they won't use these counsellors for some reason.
Yeah, they have to use the ones that
they have to use the CAMS lot or the ones directly from their boroughs. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Si.
Yes, it's true. That's how it goes.
So we've got a lot of counsellors that are just sitting there at the moment.
Doing nothing.
That could be going into schools, that could be doing some of this work and, getting like-minded people like our companies, AP Foundation, Mixed Foundation, DBA Project. We can help train these people in how to manage yourself around young people. Yeah. Because we have no issues in working with them.
No. And there's always been that issue as well, Dan.
Sorry, say that again, Si?
There's always been that issue of, we used to have an article on our website. It's probably still on there, actually. I need to check. But it's like every child in care needs counselling, right? Yes. So when you're offering counselling alongside your mentoring service or whatever, it's like they don't want to pay the private money for it. They'd rather wait 4 years,
The freeness.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what don't make no sense. It can't be about money when it comes to these children and their well-being and their mental health. Yeah, it's very frustrating.
I find every week when we cover a different topic, we always seem to come back to budget and money. And this old school system that's in place, nothing's updated, nothing's moving forward. It's like you said, stick with the counsellors in them lot. We don't go to new people, we don't come to us. Well, it's not working this way, so we need to change it up.
Something has to change.
Yes, it does.
And that's what we're going to keep fighting for.
Yeah, we will, 100%. We'll keep doing our bits because even when we're mentoring, obviously mentoring is giving advice and counselling is listening. But as me and Dan were talking yesterday, we were in a meeting about some new initiative working with different schools and that early intervention. And maybe you've got a mentoring session set with a young person. It could be about gangs, it could be about county lines, but they may come to you with an issue where you have to put that mentoring session aside and listen to them for an hour. So you're counselling them anyway.
Yes.
That takes.
And you're giving them that listening ear.
To the session that's booked, that goes over and beyond that. You have to put that to one side, and people don't understand that. How can you be mentoring and how can you be counselling at the same time? So it's that safe space, isn't it, Dan?
Well, that support there. You can call it what you want, but if you're there for somebody and you're supporting them, you're going to get a lot further than not, or just 100%. Sticking by some routine on a bit of paper.
Simon, let me ask you a question. Part of the mentoring that you've done over, say, the last 10 years.
Yes.
Does it not go side and side with the counselling for you? Maybe not for the other professionals, and for the young person, they're aware of what you're doing. Yeah. But for the professionals, but for you know that everything is side by side, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that's why we set on Mixed Foundations in the first place, because we had my friend went and did his. We both went to university, and I did the undergraduate course, and then I sent him on to go and do the degree. He got the full BA honours. Yeah. So we could offer counselling from day dot, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why we had a fully trained degree counsellor within Mixed Foundations. So we always wanted to go down that route as well. I did the CBT, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we always wanted to go down that route because we believe that we needed to, it does go side by side. You can't be just doing the mentoring. Oh yeah, let's get you into college. Let's get you into a job. Let's get you into football. Let's deal with the underlying issues that are causing you to run up the street with a knife and not engage with people and lock yourself away in your bedroom and smoke your head off. Let's deal with those underlying issues through counselling. Let's give you a safe space. So,
and it's that, I guess, for us, you know, in the work that we've been doing, I guess, over the last 10 years, including myself, and obviously we've all joined together and everything like that. We're quite lucky with some of the professionals that we're working with, like some of the schools that we're in, some of the local authorities, the police that we were having a big meeting about initiatives yesterday. They support in what we're trying to do. And that's just, when I say that, I don't just mean DBA Project, I mean Mixed Foundation, APF Foundation. Everybody's aware of everything we're trying to do and create. The ones that are jumping on the bandwagon with us, they get it.
Yeah, of course, because they can see what's missing. But there, again, Dan, I was telling you about my friend in CAMS who cares. They're in the police, they care. Those schools, they care. So you will always get an element of people that do care. You can't write everybody off. The police don't care, CAMS, you can't 100%. Do that. But we seem to be finding the right links who do care, who will enable us to get further than on our own, you know? So it's about finding those people.
I do think there needs to be a lot more advertising. I mean, I watch the telly and I see an advertisement for a police officer. I see an advertisement for a teacher. I don't see no advertisement for people to get into mental health, for listening. It's almost looked at as a negative. Like, I'll talk to other people that work in mental health and it's always a negative attitude towards it because they're so overworked, underpaid and stressed out. It's not looked at as a positive environment for the people that work in the environment. And I feel like, you know, the government itself needs to start reaching out to let us work together. Because, I mean, they're advertising to be a policewoman and there's a lot of dangers that come with that, a lot more than listening to somebody.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you put it that way, it is.
It's true. It's about promoting it. And I think we as a society in this country, because you look at the Americans, okay, counselling over there, that's normalised. It's part of their society, everyday sort of thing. People
so it's just part of your health and well-being. It's just a general, natural.
It's just normality over it. It's normal. It's normal over there. Over here,
made to be normal.
That's what I mean. And over here, it feels like we're starting to try and promote it more and more over the last couple of years, and especially with the pandemic. And you see a lot of celebrities talking about it. Obviously, one of our close friends is Josh Myers. I see he does a hell of a lot on his Instagram talking about men.
He's always promoting it.
He's always promoting it and around the mental health and everything like that. And I think it's just about trying to make that awareness still, it needs to grow a lot more in this country for us to have a society where people see counselling and mental health as something, you know, it is an illness and it's something that can be worked upon.
It's not a subject we just cover once. We have to constantly cover it. It's never going to go.
It comes alongside with everything else. It's always going to be there, and as we know,
we're born with it and we die with it. So why should we address it the whole way through our life? Why is it something that we just pick up on every now and again, or have mental awareness week? No, mental awareness should be the whole year. Yes, because it's never going to leave. We're all struggling every day.
Yes.
Let's put it this way: if you don't have any kind of mental health, you don't have a brain in your head.
Yes.
That's your mentality, isn't it? Your brain.
So if you haven't got mental health, honestly.
So we've, you know,
swimming around because everybody suffers with it.
Yeah, like I say, it doesn't have to be. If we can talk about the low-level stuff, it just makes it normalises it more. You know, going through those down days that we get, as we spoke about earlier on, it just normalises it more and makes it easy to talk about. And then the people who are really suffering, that can, you know, I believe you could be diagnosed with mental health from an early age or whatever, but your mental health can escalate to those more severe conditions, you know? So it's about... Also,
a lot of people are diagnosed with a mental health issue, medicated and sent home to get on with that issue.
Yeah, of course.
Where really this has to be about a constant situation. Like someone will be diagnosed with schizophrenia, then they're sent home with 2 months worth of medication. They've got to get on with that schizophrenia. Just because you've been diagnosed, it doesn't mean you're okay to get on with life then. You still need to be supported throughout your life. Yeah. And that's why we don't have enough budget and people to cover that.
Yeah.
And then people slip through the net and appear 10 years later and they're in the worst state ever and everyone's like, oh, wow, what happened?
They've done something crazy and they kill somebody
and nobody can understand why.
In a situation where people are then going down for murder when the reality is they're just suffering with mental health.
Yeah.
You know what else we need to... Do you know what else we need to support people with? We need to support them to find their own release. So whether it's going for a walk by the water, whether it's going to the gym, you know.
The coping mechanisms.
Yeah, that's it, Dan. Thank you. Coping mechanisms. That's what we need to support people to find their own, to explore coping mechanisms that are going to help them. Because I know kids who have ADHD and things like that, and they'll go and jump on the trampoline and that. They go, I need to go on my trampoline now. You know, just something like that. They know what they're doing it themselves. So we need to.
Yeah, that's really positive to hear something like that, Simon, because those are the things that, you know, I guess us as mentors, stroke counsellors in what the work we're trying to do, those are the things that we're trying to put in place for our organisations, aren't we? The tools, the coping mechanisms, the things that are going to help them get through each day when they're having those low days. Because we as adults, that's how we manage ourselves, don't we?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I think if you just got out of bed today and even put this on, you've done something. If you got out of bed and just had a shower, I mean, on some days we'll have dark days, but if I could just have a shower, make some food and get some fresh air, I've succeeded. I mean, I think we're very hard on ourselves as a society.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't go to work today and I only managed to shower, I'm a failure. No, we need to look at it in a more of a positive way. But because society's so hard on each other and judgmental, you then end up getting yourself in a worse state instead of letting yourself heal.
No, I agree.
Because everyone's on you. Where are you? Why are you missing out? Why don't you want to come out today? Instead of people saying, are you all right? Do you need some support? Everyone's quick to judge and just be negative about it. Yeah, we need more positivity as, you know, as a place, as people together.
Yeah, and as you said, it's about showing up every morning. Every morning when I wake up, life is a gift. So we're not promised tomorrow. So every morning I wake up, say my prayers, give thanks, get up and think, I've got another day now. So it's not half bad because I woke up this morning. So that's how I motivate myself. And I think, right, the next thing is to get up out of my bed. I've woke up. That's the first thing. I've got a gift of life again. What I'm going to do with that gift. And that's how I deal with daily life personally. I like that. You know, someone said to me, you know, you only die once, right? So live your life. And I said, no. You only live once. But my attitude is, I'll die once. I live every day. So every day is not going to be a blessing. You may not feel like it's a blessing, even though it is. But sometimes you've just got to make it through to the next day to acknowledge that it will get better. Yes.
Nothing in life ever stays the same, whether it be good or bad.
No.
Life will always change, and you've got to adapt with it. But you've also got to have a support network and people around you to help adapt with it. Because no one can survive on their own, really. We all need other people.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, as mentors, we're not sitting here preaching to you. We've got our own issues too. And we'll talk to each other or our families or whatever, you know, because we're talking to you about it doesn't mean that, you know, we're any better.
Yeah, it's all the bed of roses. Everything's okay. It's not. You know, we've got, we've all got things going on in life. That's called life. You don't get a manual for life. You know, you have to learn it yourself.
100%.
I mean, today we've spoke about mental health and we haven't even touched the basis, okay? But the point is we're talking. And that's what we want to be doing all the time with you guys, talking, communicating, getting our brains going, getting us thinking. There could be someone on here today that's having a really rough day, and I really hope they feel a bit positive now, a bit better about it. Because this is what we need. We need each other to keep moving forward in life, and positive influences, positive role models. Dan's going to have a six-pack by the end of this.
He's doing his exercise, isn't he?
Trying to change to keep the
I'm just really his belly going.
Yeah.
Right, listen,
just reach out.
To the end, so I'm going to let Vicky take over and just give
you
a synopsis of how today's gone.
So guys, today we've covered the small amount of mental health, but we want to keep on talking about issues. We want to keep raising awareness, and we want to be working together. You've got Mixed Foundations, DBA Project, AP Foundations, and Pritchard Andy's in the shed somewhere there.
Yeah, he's around. He's around.
And we're all here, and we're all working together. And this is what these lives are about. Just coming as one, as a family, as a community, and just letting you know you're not alone, and we are here, and we are not going to stop till we make some change. We will be back not this Friday coming, the Friday after, with another great topic. Hopefully more of us jumping in and talking, and we really appreciate you joining us every other Friday and getting involved. Thank you for all your comments. I'm sorry, me and Dan are a little bit blind.
Yeah, we've not been able to see this quite far away where the screens are today.
Yeah, the sun's blinding me.
Showing our age now. Guys, I want to thank you very much for listening, tuning in, supporting us, commenting, and always following us along our journey. Come and be part with us. Thank you so much. We'll see you not next Friday, the Friday after. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Nice, guys. Look after yourselves.
Love.
Enjoy the sunshine.
Yeah.